Hare Krishna. Question: did Draupadi love Karna? Answer: there is absolutely no mention of any such thing in the Mahabharata. Now, some later retellings of the Mahabharata bring about this fanciful interpretation that Draupadi secretly loved Karna and that she felt that he would have been a better protector. But not only is this not there in the original Mahabharata, but there are several telling indications in the storyline of the Mahabharata which indicate that such a possibility is extremely unlikely, if not impossible. Let's look at this through various incidents in the Mahabharata to see what we can infer about the nature of the relationship between Draupadi and Karna. So the Draupadi was a princess, and the first interaction between her and Karna occurred during her Swayamvar when Karna tried to be her suitor. So now, according to some retellings of the Mahabharata, it is that Karna was not allowed either by Draupadi or by Drishtadyumna, her brother, because he was not a Kshatriya, he was a Sutaputra. Or, according to the Madhvacharya's Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya, it is that Karna competed but missed the target just by a hair's breadth. But either way, the pertinent point is that Draupadi showed no favor towards Karna, nor did she give any indication of any attraction towards Karna. Now, afterwards, her marriage amidst poverty is the second phase. Now, her hand was eventually won by Arjuna, who was in the disguise of a Brahmana and who pierced the target. Now, at this point, uh, Draupadi did not know that her husband was Arjuna, but she married him. Now, why did she marry him? Was it out of deference to the Swayamvar tradition and deference to the fact that her father had given her hand to Arjuna? Now, if that had been the case, then such a submissive lady would not have pursued any kind of affection or relationship with any man other than her husband. Uh, or Draupadi could have accepted the hand of Arjuna not just because of deference to her father's will, but also because she was attracted to Arjuna because of the spectacular way in which he had won her hand. After all the kings of the world had failed, he had done the impossible. And not only had he won the hand, but he had eventually even held back all the peeved kings along with Karna when they had tried to attack him and attack Drupada, because they felt insulted that the king had invited them and then by passing the Kshatriyas he had given his daughter to a Brahmana. So the point is, if Draupadi had become attracted to Arjuna at that time, then she would not have at all pursued any affection towards a man who was the arch rival of her beloved, that was Karna. So again, it's extremely unlikely. And now, so if then she accepted her husband Arjuna and the other Pandavas amidst poverty and accepted it happily, and then next we can look at marriage amidst prosperity. So it turned out that her apparently poor seeming husbands were actually the illustrious Pandavas. They were princes and eventually they became emperors. When they performed Rajsuya Yagya, she became the queen of the most powerful person in the whole earth, in the whole world at that time. Now, if she had been faithful to her husbands, even in the time of poverty, there was no reason for her mind to turn away from her husbands during the period of prosperity. Nor does the Mahabharata give any report of any discord between her and her husbands during this period. She was faithfully by the side of Yudhishthir when all the sacrifices were performed and all the rituals were done. So here also there is absolutely no reason for her to have ever turned to some other man apart from her husbands. Then we can look at the fateful, dreadful gambling match, after which she was called and disrobed. Now, some people say that at that time she felt that, oh, even the five Pandava, I had five husbands, but they could not protect me. But if I had married Karna, he would have protected me. Now, this is such a fictitious idea, because, first of all, it was Karna himself who has suggested the idea that Draupadi be disrobed. It was Karna who had Draupadi dragged into the assembly, and it was Karna who was primarily responsible for her dishonor. If at all Draupadi had any affection anyway for Karna, when she found that he was behaving so villainously towards her, all that affection, whatever might have been there, would have been evaporated. And the fact that it was just a short period when she was at the mercy of the Kauravas. During that time, the period quickly ended, and then afterwards she was in the forest, and at that time she was furious. So sometimes there's a particular psychological syndrome called Stockholm syndrome, where people who are persecuted who are imprisoned and are persecuted and tortured, somehow they develop in a perverted sense an affection towards their tormentors. But this is utterly unlikely given the shortness of the situation and given the strong-willed nature of Draupadi. So, far from any affection developing at this point, affection would have been destroyed by Karna's villainous actions. And further, now during the forest also and throughout later, did Draupadi ever feel the need for any other protector? Did she ever feel that the Pandavas' protection was inadequate? Now, if we consider the gambling assembly itself, at that particular point, when her five husbands had turned out to be inadequate for protecting her, Draupadi did not ask Karna for help. He did not turn to Karna for protection, even when Karna was right in front of her. Instead, she turned to Krishna, who was not even there, and begged to Krishna for protection. And Krishna miraculously did protect her. And then later on again, when in the forest Jayadratha abducted her, at that time Draupadi was fearless and she castigated Jayadratha, saying that he had done a foolhardy thing, because her husbands would come and they would punish him thoroughly. And she exhibited no fear that her husbands would not come, or her husbands would not be able to protect her from Jayadratha, rescue her from Jayadratha. And eventually, when her husbands came charging along, she proudly pointed out to all them and identified all of them and told about their glories to her abductor. And she spoke this in such a powerful way that Jayadratha started trembling, and he just abandoned her and tried to run away. But of course, the Pandavas caught him and had him punished. But the point is, again, Draupadi, even when she was abducted, she did not feel the need for any other protector. Her husbands, she had full confidence in the prowess of her husbands to protect her. And later on, again, if we consider the incident of Kichaka, when Kichaka propositioned her, and when she refused, he tried to molest her. He hit her in public. At that time, this happened in the court when Yudhishthir was also present, but Yudhishthir was in disguise as a Brahmin minister as a Brahmin assistant of the king, and Bhima also happened to be there. But Yudhishthir told Bhima to go away, and Yudhishthir did not intervene, because Yudhishthir felt that if Kichak was a very powerful warrior, and if the Pandavas took any action against Kichak, if he was killed, then suspicion would rise who would have killed Kichak, and that way their cover would have blown away, because it was likely Bhima only could kill Kichak. And that's what eventually happened. When Bhima killed Kichak, the Kauravas suspected that Bhima must be there in the Virat kingdom, and that's how they marched on that kingdom. But the point here is that when Yudhishthir did not intervene when Kichaka was insulting and assaulting her, Draupadi would naturally felt disappointed and broken. But what did she do? she did not go to some other man, she went to her second husband Bhima. And Bhima more than adequately protected her by destroying Kichaka, by crushing him into a shapeless mass, by beating him to death. So the point is, Draupadi never looked for any other protector anywhere else. She was consistently faithful throughout her life. She was a virtuous lady, she was a great devotee of Krishna. And if we look at the entire Mahabharata, there is no indication of her wavering anyway in her faithfulness towards her husbands. Even in the gambling match, at that time when Draupadi was dragged in the assembly, and Duryodhan tried to pit wife against husband, and he tried to say that, he told Draupadi that if Draupadi admitted that Dharmaraj Yudhishthir had acted adharmically by gambling her after he had gambled himself, then if she admitted that her husband had acted adharmically, he would release all of them, the Pandavas and her. Even at such a time, what did Draupadi do? Draupadi said, it is on the instruction of the elders that Yudhishthir played this gambling match. He had no desire to play the gambling match. So let the elders decide the virtue of the actions over here. So even though Yudhishthir was to be blamed in a sense, but Draupadi did not blame Yudhishthir at that time. She stood firm by the side of her husband. Eventually, later on, when they were in the forest, at that time, there are occasions when Draupadi expressed a displeasure and even anger at what she felt was Yudhishthir's unassertiveness, but she never flinched or swayed in her faithfulness to her husband. So, given all this, if despite all this, if people say that Draupadi had any secret affection for Karna, then they are not talking about the Draupadi of the Mahabharata. They are simply talking about a Draupadi from their own imagination. Thank you. Hare Krishna.